Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Ruby for the Web. I'm your host and your professor, Dr. John Baugh. For this lecture, we're going to be discussing forms and user sign-up within the context of Rails, of course. So in the previous lecture, we focused on models and validation. So we talked about how Rails enforces rules and maintains the integrity of the data that lives in our database. So now we're going to turn that logic into something users can actually interact with. Actually, a lot of this is actually completed already from previous work. So this lecture, though, is focused on us reviewing and formalizing a little bit about the data layer to the user experience. Or connecting, rather, the data layer to the user experience. So users are able to create, edit, and submit data through these forms, which are the heart of nearly every dynamic web application. So things like signups, logins, posts, comments, profile edits, and more. In plain HTML, forms can be verbose and fragile. You have to specify URLs, HTTP methods, hidden authenticity tokens, and field names that line up with the server-side parameters. Rails eliminates nearly all of that boilerplate code through its form helpers, which automatically bind form fields to model attributes, generate the correct routes, and include built-in protection against common security problems such as cross-site request forgery or CSRF. In this lecture, you will understand how Rails form_with helper streamlines form creation, trace how data flows from view controller model database, build a working sign-up user form, or at least we're going to look at part of what we've done so far and make some modifications, and it creates and validates these new users, display validation errors in a user-friendly way, and prepare the foundation for authentication and future features like login and profile editing. So in short, the previous lecture taught Rails what valid data looks like, and this lecture teaches Rails how to use it properly when users provide it. So the first major section in this, beyond our introduction, is the understanding forms in Rails. So let's do an overview. Every Rails application that accepts user input must be able to move data from the browser to the database safely and predictably. This cycle always follows very similar patterns to the browser requesting a new resource form. For example, a get on, say, /user/new would be handled by users controller, #new. The controller prepares an empty model object. Okay. Rails will render a form bound to that model. The user fills it out and clicks submit. The user sends the data back with a post request to the user controller create method. The controller attempts to save the model. If it's valid, the record is persisted and the user is redirected. But if it's invalid, the form re-renders with the same input and validation messages. So the scaffold you generated in the REST demo app already includes almost all of this flow. That means you can open the app and see a fully functional form right now. No extra wiring is required, but we'll start by exploring what's already in place and then discuss what still needs enhancements to make it a proper sign-up experience. So if we go under, in our little app here, if we go under app and then controllers, close models for a second, go under controllers, and then we open up the usercontroller.rb. This is what we have so far. So this is already in the project. The user at user equals user.new prepares a blank instance for the form. When the user submits the form, create will run building that new user from the submitted parameters. We did some of this through the console before as well, but the scaffold uses the respond to, so it can respond to both HTML and JSON clients. So in this case, we've got both HTML and JSON right here. Okay. If validation fails, Rails will automatically re-render the same form view with any error messages attached to the @user. Right. So the controller already covers the essential receive, validate, save, render type cycle. Now, if we look at the view, so that's the controller. And remember, in MVC, we've got models, views, and controllers. So this is the controller. What about the view? So if we close controllers for a second, go to views, and then look under users, we can see the underscore form.html.erb. It's called a partial. Okay, that's indicated by the underscore in the front typically. So you can see that this code exists as well. So this is used by both new and edit. The form with model user at the top decides whether to send a post for new records or a patch for updates. Okay. The field names, like the user at name and user at email, match the controller, what the controller expects inside the params user. Okay. So you've got this right here with the name, okay, in that one, and then email right there. So when the model has validation errors, Rails makes them available via user.errors, which the partial displays actually at the top. Okay, so in short, the scaffold partial is a fully working Rails form. Now if we look at app views users new HTML.erb, this one simply renders the form partial, okay, from this, right? That was the form partial, the one called form underscore form.html.erb. It knows which one to use because of the name here. So it renders that for the users. So it renders the form partial and then provides navigation links as well, like to go back and such. All right, routes. So we want to look at the routes or routes, depending on who you're talking to. This is under config. Let me look there. There we go. There we go. Okay. So config routes.rb. And inside here, you'll notice we do have different resources such as our users right there. So that single line gives Rails every RESTful route for the user resources, including for the index, the new, create, show, edit, update, and destroy. Okay, so when you do a get at the URL / users, it'll call index. If you do get at the user / new, it'll call new. If you do post / users, that'll create one, get / users, and then / the ID, that'll do a show. If it's the ID / edit, it'll do edit. If you do a patch to / user / :ID, it'll do update. And then if you do a delete method, that will delete the user at that specific ID. So we can just make sure everything's working. I probably need to go into the right folder. There's a subfolder here, REST demo app. And then I'm going to do ben/rails space server and make sure we're working here. There we go. Good. All right, so I'm going to, I'm going to copy that link, and we're going to go into Chrome. Okay, there we go. Load that guy. And we're going to go to users, and you'll see it'll automatically load that, and then new. So you could type it directly, but it's localhost :5000 / users / new. And this has a bunch of information here. Now, if we try this, though, if I put John, and it's like John at someplace.gov, and I click create, you notice I have an error already. Password can't be blank. I don't have anything on the form yet to actually take a password. We just had everything working for the, at the console level, but there's nothing for the, no one's going to interact with your website outside of the dev environment really with a console. So we need to fix that. So at this point, we have a functional form pipeline, but what's missing are the password fields and then custom routes, like /signup to make it easy, which we'll implement next. So we'll also refactor some error display into shared partial to keep views dry. So why does this matter? So forms are where your applications become interactive. They combine everything we've learned so far, models, validations, routing, and controllers, into a cohesive flow that lets the users create real data. Okay. So Rails helpers take care of the repetitive details, allowing you to focus on design and logic rather than low-level HTML mechanics. So next, we'll extend the base form into a full sign-up feature, including the password fields and a friendly sign-up route, and a reusable error message partial. So now we're moving on to building the sign-up form with the new and create actions, making sure that it's built, whatever's built so far, and then doing some modifications. So now that we understand how the forms work, we can build a true sign-up page that allows the new users to create the accounts with their passwords and their confirmations. So the current scaffold already provides a functional form for creating user with name and email, except now it's got the error problem because of the missing password stuff. So we're going to extend, add a friendly /signup route point to the user controller. We're also going to extend the form to include the password and password confirmation fields, ensure strong passwords include those new attributes, and provide a clean success path with a flash message and redirect. So the sign-up flow connects everything. So we've got routes, controller, model, validations, and views. Once complete, you'll have a production quality form that validates input, creates the user, and displays the feedback when something goes wrong. So let's go into our code again. And under the routes, you'll notice we've got the about, we've got the resources under there. I'm going to add this. I've got a space there so we can have it be very obvious what's going on. So it's going to be users. This gets route to users new. Okay, so it's going to route automatically to users new when they say /signup. Okay, at the top. So now both signup and user /new will render the signup form, but /signup just looks more natural to end users. For the controller, if we go to our users controller under app controllers, in case you weren't noticing where it was. So app controllers, user controller, we've got the class written out here. We're going to expand it to make the flash redirect logic a little bit cleaner. Okay, so let's make sure we've got everything that we need. And we're going to actually say welcome user instead. So I'm going to just modify that. So in here, it says notice. So I've got the redirect to user and then a notice. And for this one, instead of user was successfully created, I'm going to say welcome. And then you're going to use some string interpolation with user dot name. Okay. And the other stuff, that stuff here remains the same. But I also have to make a slight modification. This is something that I noticed last time. We don't really need, we got to add some stuff too, but we don't need in set user this to say params.expect. It should actually be like an array-based syntax with square brackets, and the ID should go in there. Okay, so we should be using the route path parameter directly, not use expect for path IDs. Okay, so we should actually be doing that. And the other thing is, instead of just name and email, what else do I have? I've also got password, and I've got password underscore confirmation. Okay, so those are two major things that we need to have modified. So now I'm going to go under the view with the form HTML ERB. So that's what we do there. You can always pause whenever you need to, obviously, pause the video. So name, email, password, password confirmation. Separated by commas, everything looks good. Form HTML ERB. We're going to do some slight modifications to the top right here. Now for this, all right, so let's look at this. We've got the model user and the do form, but we need to add a couple things here. So we're going to put local is true, and HTML, we have to put in curly braces here. No validate is true. That's going to actually help with some of the testing if you do testing later on. And then another thing we're going to do is kind of clean this up a little bit so that this name field is auto-focused. So right in here where it says form text underscore field and then the colon name, you're going to put common autofocus is true. Okay, UE. All right, so we've got that. I'm going to save that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a sign up link to the header so users can access the form easily. Okay, so we're going to go under the app views users app views layouts, not users. Let's see here. Okay, app views layouts. There he is. And go to the partial underscore header HTML ERB. So we're going to keep all these other ones, but we need to add one. So the one we're going to add, I'm just going to copy paste from my notes, is to make sure another list item here. Okay, we're going to line that up. That should not be there. It should be there. And then tab that in. And you know what? I think we're going to make this a little bit prettier here. Okay. And then I'm going to tab in each of these. I think that's going to make it look a little bit better. There we go. So we added this sign up path here. That's the one you have to add. The others exist. That's that navigation at the very top, of course. So we've saved that. Now we're going to make sure that the show HTML ERB, so this one's under users, and we're going to look for show HTML ERB. This is to display the newly created user. We want to make sure that everything's where it's supposed to be. So we've got the notice at the top. We're actually going to modify this slightly. So we've got the content for title and username here. We've got the username and a header right there. We've got the email, horizontal rule, and we've got the divs down here for some of the navigation. So make sure that's saved. It's already running, so I'm going to see it should function properly. And let's go back to home here. And you'll notice we have a sign up page now. I'm going to go to sign up. You'll notice that, oh, that seems to be missing. I know what happened. I did exactly what I thought I was going to do accidentally. So in the, we got to go back here. The form HTML ERB here, I forgot to add the password fields that I said I was going to add. So that was cool. So we got this. And I'm also going to slightly modify the form submit here. I want it to say create my account. So these are the two that I want. I want these there. And let me see here. I could probably do that. There we go. And then tab those in. And there we go. So you can pause the video if you need to copy. Display block, password, and password confirmation. So that's what they correspond to. And then the create my account on the button. All right. Now let's go back to the new user here. I'm going to refresh this, and we should have our forms now. And we do. We should have all the forms we need. So I'm going to do Johnny at johnsville.com, snuggle123, snuggle123. And if we do that, it's valid and creates it. If we go up to the sign up and let's say I don't put anything and I try to create it, I'm going to get some errors. So it'll say, tell me how many, and it'll tell me what errors are the problems. So if I put the name, we'll say Sally, and we're going to put Sally at sallyville.com and then miss the passwords. It's going to tell us now that we just have the password can't be blank. Now what if I put Buffalo123? Okay, and then I click create my account. It'll say password confirmation doesn't match password, so I have to do it again. Buffalo123 and then Buffalo123. I think I typed that right. All right, give it a minute. There we go. And we've got Sally. And if I click on users, it will list all of these users, including the ones I just added. Awesome. Okay, so you should also see, if you click on any of these right here, You should see their name at the top and then the email and your ability to edit the user as well. Okay, so at this point, you've built the first half of the authentication system. Users can register, and Rails automatically handles the security and validation logic behind the scenes. That's the same foundation used in production for real-world sign-up flows. But next, we're going to enhance the user experience by displaying clear validation errors whenever something goes wrong. Okay, so for displaying validation errors. All right, so when form submissions fail, users need clear feedback. Rails attaches all the validation errors to the model instance that failed to save. We can render these messages automatically using a shared partial, which keeps every form in the app consistent with and avoids repeating code. So we'll extract the error display logic that was previously inline in the form HTML into a reusable _errors_messages.html ERB partial. So we're going to go under app view shared, okay, or app views shared, and I'm going to create this new one that I'm going to call _error _messages.html.erb. Okay, and I'm going to just copy my notes and paste it here, so you can copy as you need. The partial expects a variable named object. Okay, so it's got the object, and that's passed from the form itself. It checks the object errors any, okay, to make sure that there are no errors. And it prints a styled list of full messages. So the full messages array right here will include both the attribute name and the error text. So for example, password is too short, minimum 6 characters, etc., etc. So we're going to modify the form HTML ERB partial. In this case, we have the form width at the top, and then you have the form label and everything else. But I'm actually going to modify some stuff like removing the if and doing things like that. So the main thing, just to keep things consistent, I'm going to copy over from my other notes, but most of this is going to stay exactly the same. This is just to make sure that it's consistent here. Okay, so I removed the if, and I added the render at the top here. That's the major change, is just removing the if, and everything just kind of lives in the open. And then you've got object is passed in as user to this shared error message. And then that object is what goes in here and is tested right here. There's the if statement and all the stuff that you would need to do the testing in here. Okay. So how does it work? When @user.save fails in the create method, Rails will leave user populated with errors. So rendering new again shows the form, and the partial reads the user.errors. Full messages returns the human-friendly string like email is invalid. So again, basically we've just offloaded the error stuff so that if we need to have it on other pages, it'll work as well from here. Okay, so let's make sure that we didn't break anything. I'm going to go to over here, go to sign up, and we should still, oh, we've got a problem. All right, let's make sure it actually exists. That would be useful, wouldn't it? Let's go over here. Error messages. We need to rename this so it has an S in it. Okay, so that's what's missing. So error messages, HTML ERB. So little simple things can cause big problems. So let's go back here. We're going to go up to the sign up page again and see if we can get it to load. Create my account, and we'll get the errors as expected. Do John, and then create my account again. And I'll say email can't be blank, so john@johnsomething.edu, and then create my account. Doesn't have a password. Okay, pass 123, pass 123, and then create my account. And this one should be correct. There we go. We got John. Welcome, John. That's from our earlier example. Okay, perfect. So Clean and consistent error handling is one of the hallmarks of a polished Rails application. By creating a shared partial, you only define this behavior once, and every form in your app instantly benefits. And you can change it in that one location as needed. So this small refactor also prepares the project for future models if you want to modify microposts, profiles, books, and other things. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to refactor some form partials a little bit more. We now have a working signup page. The next step is to keep our forms clean and consistent. So two simple refactors is reusing the single form HTML ERB for both new and edit, centralizing error display in a shared partial so every form renders validation messages the same way. Some of this is probably already implemented from earlier, but we will look and make sure everything's where it needs to be. So that keeps the view dry, don't repeat yourself, and it makes future maintenance easier. Any improvements to the form or error UI apply everywhere. So reminder, we already created the error messages HTML ERB partial in the previous section where we did displaying validation errors. That same partial will automatically work with any model-based form in the application, including when we reuse our user form for editing. So now let's focus on unifying the form itself. All right, so we're going to ensure our user form renders the shared error partial and includes password fields for signup. This same partial will be used on the edit page. You can choose to hide the password fields on edit if you want or keep them. Here, we keep them for simplicity. So our form already renders in that underscore form HTML ERB. We've got this right here with the model user, but we're going to add the local true and then HTML no validate. That can help with testing later on if you want to add that. So another thing is near the bottom here for the submit button, we've got our password fields as expected, right? But I'm going to replace this create my account here. So it's going to have two different options, and it's going to be based on user persisted. And if the user is persisted, it'll display save changes. Otherwise, create my account. Okay, so that can distinguish between creating an account and editing, right? So new and edit views should reuse the form. So new HTML .erb, which is under users over here, app views users. We've got the content for title. It says new user currently. I'm going to actually change this to say sign up. And then for the edit .html ERB, it says editing user. You could say edit user if you want. Doesn't really matter. I think I cleaned that up when I was looking back. That's why it's that way in my notes. But and then in the user controller, we want to just make sure that everything's where it needs to be. Okay, so we've got the password, we've got the password confirmation. So if you forgot to add that before, make sure you add it now. You need these as well as name and email. So new and edit both render the same form, error messages are consistent, and you maintain one form surface for the user resources. Okay, so if I want to open this up and I go to, say, edit the user, we can now see our lovely user editing. So I'm going to say Snuggles123, Snuggles123, and maybe it's Johnny Be Good, and save changes. And that will allow us to actually change things if I want to edit it again. And let's say I forget the name. Say save changes. It's going to say name can't be blank. Okay, I'll say, oh, that's just Johnny. Okay, now password, it'll allow on the edit page you not to, update that. So we're just keeping it there for simplicity. All right, so everything's pretty consistent now. The next thing you'd want to do probably is make sure that we do a get status to see what's been changed. We can say get add dot, and then get commit m. We're going to say implement be good to spell, user sign up form, shared error partial, and cleanup. Okay. All right, there you go. And there we go. All set. Okay, so that's what I have for you for this lecture. Fairly short, but it was mostly just some cleanup and making sure that everything looks good. If you were, if you're in my class and you're kind of struggling with last week's material, you can continue to work on that and then just add these features to it to make sure that it's a little cleaner and that the form is consistent with the validation that we set up previously. All right, that's what I've got for you. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks. Have a great day and goodbye.